this is State Representative Tammy Green, and we're doing our video update this week. Today I'm joined by two upcoming leaders in our community, in our district. I have on my left Charlotte Sato. She is from Anderson Island, and she is a sophomore at Charles Wright Academy. And on my right, I have Genevieve Anderson. She's a fifth grader. She lives in University Place and goes to Drum Intermediate School. And I thought it would be fun to hear from young folks what they're thinking about, what they might like to ask me. So you want to start out, Genevieve?
My first question is, I've noticed that most people are losing their jobs, and when they submit to jobs, there are 9 other people looking for that job, no matter how cruddy that job is. What do you think the legislative should do to help that?
Well, that is a really great question, and it's true. There is a really large unemployment in our state right now. We're doing a couple of things. I don't know if you remember in history a president named FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
During the Great Depression.
Yeah, that's right, during the Depression. He did a thing where he created a bunch of projects like working on parks and building things and helped put people to work. And then we had a governor in our state, Dan Evans, and he did the same thing when we were having a downturn in our economy. He put people to work building things, fixing things, making parks and such. So that's what we're going to try to do in our legislature this year. We have some money in our capital budget that we're going to try to use to do those kinds of things, get people back to work. Because when folks are working, then they're buying things, which makes taxes, which helps us be able to pay for everything. That was a great question, Genevieve. How about you, Charlotte? What would you like to ask?
My question, well, one of them is, I know that there were several cuts to the budget, and I heard that they might be affecting schools. So I was wondering, like, how have you been involved in that, and what are some of the big effects that are going to happen?
Well, you know, actually, we did pretty good with schools this year because I don't know if you're aware, but there was a big lawsuit called the McCleary lawsuit, which said that the legislature wasn't doing a very good job of funding schools, and they said you have to start doing a better job of funding schools. So this year, even though we have a really tough budget, we barely made any changes in the way that we're funding schools. What we have done is plan for how we're going to spend in the future, because the McCleary lawsuit says you have to fund schools adequately, and we don't have enough money to do that right now, so we have to figure out how we're going to do that. But for this year, the cuts to education were very minimal. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, but we have a lot of work to do for the future. Do you have another question, Genevieve?
Yes, this one's about the natural environment and what's happening to it. So on TV, they've been talking about the Earth, and they have this Friends for Change thing. And they have this game where every time you do something with it, they like give a donation to the wildlife preserve. And I've noticed, like, because on YouTube, I've seen a video of a mountain, and throughout the years, the snow's melted off that mountain no matter how cold it gets. And that shows me that the Earth is changing. And there's nothing we can really do about that, but is there something we can do about that?
That's a really great question. And, you know, one of the reasons I decided to come to the legislature was to make sure that for future generations, we still have the same beautiful state of Washington and the same beautiful world that we have now. So one of the things we're doing this year, particularly in Pierce County, is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have some of the worst air quality in the state. I know, it's shocking. And one of the reasons why, there's a couple reasons why we have the worst air quality. One is we have a lot of folks that use wood stoves to heat their homes. And so the wood stoves cause a lot of air pollution. So what we have is a program to help people to buy better wood stoves that decrease the air emissions. Also, we have a lot of problems with cars. Like if you've ever been on I-5 driving by Joint Base Lewis McChord, it's kind of like a parking lot sometimes. And so when cars sit still and they're not moving, they create a lot of extra emissions. So we're going to be building carpool lanes along that area of I-5 to help at least some of the cars to keep moving, right? And then we're doing a lot of stuff to try to encourage carpooling and people riding the transit. And hopefully pretty soon we'll have the light rail coming all the way down to Lakewood. There's a big parking station there. You've probably seen it before where the buses go.
What's the transit?
Transit means public transportation like buses and trains and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
That's what transit means. And one of the other things that we're doing is, you know, in our state we have some very strict environmental regulations, and sometimes businesses get cranky about that, but I think for future generations, we need to do everything we can to make sure that we have clean air, clean water for kids, and a great environment to live in. Do you have another question, Charlotte?
I actually do. So I know that the gay rights bill or gay marriage bill has had a lot of, people coming and saying, we don't want this to happen. And I was wondering what's your stance on that? And, are you pushing it or are you, so.
That's a great question. That was a really important bill that we did this year. And folks that are your age kind of think that folks that are my age don't get it, and they think of it as an equality thing. I know that for a lot of people, this is a religious issue, and they, feel very strongly about marriage one way or the other. But for me, I'm very, I really believe that we have a separation of church and state, and that we need to treat all people equally. And so that's why I did support it. I wouldn't say I'm like leading the parade, but I did feel like because of the laws that we have and treating people equally, that it needed to happen. Well, great. I hope that you could appreciate our upcoming generation, what they're thinking. Thanks for joining me, and please be sure to contact me by email or phone. All my contact information will be listed below. This is Tammy Green from the 28th Legislative District. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.